Welcome, everyone, to a bonus episode of the Cops and Writers Podcast, Author Spotlight, with best-selling author Amy Pease. Her first best-selling book, Northwoods, that is set in northern Wisconsin, is an Amazon editor's best pick in the mystery, thriller, and suspense categories. Her newest book, Wildwood, is burning up the charts. Amy is an alumnus of the University of Wisconsin-Madison Writers Studio. Amy is also a nurse practitioner where she is a nationally recognized HIV specialist. Please enjoy this wide-ranging conversation with one of my favorite authors, Amy Pease. Amy Pease, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this. I always enjoy talking to high-speed authors that are a lot further along in their writing journey than little old me. So this is going to be awesome.
High-speed authors. That is I have not heard that before. Okay, okay.
You are a high-speed author, Amy. Here we go. Let's see what makes Amy Pease tick.
I've
So,
never heard that term used for publishing, the
uh,
publishing industry, at least not big five publishers.
yeah, in my former profession, it's like, that's a high-speed operator. Yeah, so I just transfer everything over. Hey, I was a
Yeah,
musician. I can transpose. That's what I do.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So let's start at the beginning. How would you describe your childhood?
Well, okay, so I'm from De Pere, which is a suburb, I guess you could say, of Green Bay. And this would have been in the 80s and early 90s. And it was before the internet, really. Yes, there were computers, but I remember I didn't have an email address until I started college in 1996. So a lot of the issues that we've got these days for kids, and I've got kids, just weren't a thing back then, and that made
Right.
it really good. And I can't complain. My home life was great. It was stable and everything, and so. I don't know that I'd use the word idyllic, but it was pretty darn good.
See, I consider that up north. I'm from Chicago originally.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it is
anything
kind of.
anything north of Lake Geneva was up north to us.
Yeah. Well, it's a different type of north than the north that I talk about in my books.
Right.
So, and I couldn't even, people that are not from Wisconsin will be like, okay, come on.
Yeah.
It is the Fox Valley is a little bit of a different thing. Interestingly, we have a different accent than down here in Madison, which is where I live now. There's a little bit different accent.
There is. I do notice that. It's a little bit of a different world, that's for sure.
Yep.
So mom and dad, what do they do for a living?
My dad was an optometrist, and my mom was like administrative
Okay.
stuff.
So
Yeah, and
your
then she
dad
went
was
back to
in,
be a teacher after, but that was when I was in college.
your dad was in the medical field, and you are in
Mhm.
the medical field, so there's some similarities there. Now,
Yep.
I'm guessing you spent some time like in northern Wisconsin where your two most popular books are set.
Yes. Yeah. So, um, Northwoods and Wildwood are set in a fictionalized up north resort town. But it's based on like Minocqua. So that's like what, 4 hours north of Madison.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we didn't have a cottage or anything. A lot of folks did have summer homes or cottages in that neck of the woods. We didn't have that, but we camped a lot. So I remember driving through some town up there many, many, many years ago, and we passed a little resort called the Buck Snort Resort.
The buck
And that
snort.
always
Okay.
stuck with me. And I didn't use that name in any of my books because the tone of my books is not goofy like that. But I
Right.
always remember that. And I'm sure that that played some part in the idea for Northwoods.
Oh, that's awesome. Minocqua, that rings a bell to me because my oldest boy played club hockey.
Mm.
So you travel all over God's green earth, playing
Hmm.
hockey. And we had a tournament in Minocqua, and it was winter time. And I've never been there before. And you get settled in your hotel, and it's like, well, I'm gonna get some snacks and drinks and whatever. I'm just gonna run to, the grocery store. So I go to the grocery store. This is hilarious. I had the only I had a Toyota 4Runner, so it's a four-wheel drive. I had the only like car truck like vehicle. It was all snowmobiles. in the parking
Oh,
lot.
I was gonna say, where are we going with it? Yes, snowmobiles.
I
Yep.
was laughing my butt off. I'm like, oh my God, this is
Hmm.
hilarious. Where the heck am I?
Oh yeah. People ride their snowmobiles from bar to bar,
Oh yeah,
which
that's a thing.
you know, and I don't know how it is up north these days, but we don't get enough snow down here anymore for
No.
people to consistently be able to do snowmobiling. But big deal up there.
Oh yeah, it's a big thing. Like you said, they go from like bar to bar, supper clubs to supper club.
Yeah.
And coincidentally enough, one person usually dies a season because
Hmm.
they're drunk and they're going 90 miles an hour. And oh, look, there's a fence. Oh, look, there's a tree
There's
branch.
a tree.
It's usually at night. When you're
Yep.
obviously you can't see that well and there are no street lights, you're in the middle of nowhere-ish. So yeah, unfortunately that does happen.
Sometimes I talk about the Wisconsin drinking culture when I do author events because, for folks who aren't from Wisconsin, I think it's kind of hard to comprehend what it is. But, there's folks that ride their riding lawnmower to the bar because they
Oh,
got their fifth
oh
DUI.
yeah. It's
It is a thing. It is a thing.
it's a big part of the culture.
Mhm.
And before I was a cop, I bartended in Cross Plains. I lived in
Oh, okay.
Madison and I bartended in Cross Plains at a supper club.
Yeah.
And I mean, I went to college in Whitewater. I mean, I knew the drinking thing, and I grew up in an Irish house. I was drinking
Yeah.
since I was like 10.
Yeah.
That's not unusual.
No.
And it was just amazing to me, how much Corbel brandy we went through. I'd go through like
Oh,
three or four
yes.
bottles. It was old fashioned on top of old fashioned on top of old. People love these old fashions in Wisconsin. There's
Hmm.
definitely their own little niche. It's kind of funny that once you kind of dissect it.
There's a scene in Northwoods where Eli, the main character, orders it's Corbell.
Yep.
There's Corbell special on that night at the bar. And I had a reader, send me a photo on Instagram, and they had put a bottle of Corbell on the hood of their car next to Northwoods, and in the background was Quick Trip. It
Oh,
was
that's awesome.
it was so cool.
You can't get more Wisconsin than that. Quick Trip is
Right.
a staple here in
Yeah.
Wisconsin. Yeah, and
Gas,
Corbel, oh
for anyone
my
who's
God, just
wondering.
that's funny. But you know what? I bartend now at a buddy's place in Elm Grove, like once a week or twice a week. Tito's.
Mhm.
Oh, do we go
Oh
through the
yeah.
Tito's?
Yeah.
Wow. We barely, I
Yep.
mean, I still probably make, 10 to 20 old fashions a night. But, and that's just, on a slow night sometimes. But people still love
Mhm.
their old fashions. But, vodka is really bringing up the rear. There's a lot of vodka drinkers now.
Yeah. I had a run-in with vodka when I was 19 and I haven't drank it since.
I had one of those experiences too with tequila, and I'm like, oh, I can't even smell that stuff. I'm mixing like a margarita, and I'm like holding my nose. I'm like, oh, please, God, let this be over with.
Yep.
I can smell dead
That
bodies all day
and
long, but not that.
spiced rum mixed with apple cider.
Oh,
I don't do that anymore.
yeah, that just does not sound like a good idea. But hey,
No.
it makes for good stories, right?
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. So when you were in high school and or college, how would friends describe you? What's the craziest thing you saw when you were a cop? My first week on the job, a guy running at me with a butcher knife. He just killed his brother over the last hot dog. That's chapter 1. There are 33 more. Police Stories, The Rookie Years just launched. Available now on Amazon. Search Police Stories Patrick O'Donnell or click the link in the show notes. Back to the show.
Well, I think that people who are like my close friends, oh, I don't know. I was kind of a schoolgirl. Like I did well in school
Mm.
and I thought I was really smart till I got to college and then I realized that my school was just easy. So I was a bit of a schoolgirl, but I was also in sports and music and all sorts of stuff. So I was a bit of a joiner. Um, and some people, they go to college and they get homesick or they just are like, oh, I want to go back. I don't
Right.
want to be here anymore. I came to UW here in Madison and I was like, yes, my life has finally begun. So I really enjoyed college. And I suspect that my college friends would describe me as like a party animal. So,
Really? Well,
but
I would not have guessed that. I like that.
yeah, I've
That's
always been like I'm a good decision maker though. Like
okay.
I take calculated risks only.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, for those who don't know, UW-Madison is a top tier college. And yeah, I tried to get in there. I didn't have the grades. That's why I went to Whitewater, but all my buddies went to Madison. So I would go there once a week when I was in college, Thursday nights.
It's an awesome city. The university is humongous and really
Yes,
cool.
it really is. And for a young person going to college, footloose and fancy free, man, I don't think there's any better place. It was just a blast. Oh my
Like
God.
the quintessential collegiate, I mean, not Ivy League collegiate, but the quintessential Big Ten
Right.
college experience.
And I don't know the numbers, but I know Madison is always towards the top for like top partying college. I don't know how they measure this, but like
Yeah.
alcohol consumption and whatever else, it's definitely a party school. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and but academically it's very difficult. So,
Yes.
how do you balance that?
I don't know. I don't know how my buddies did it. I had one buddy that had a, photographic memory, and
Uh-huh.
he literally party all night and just straight A's and everything.
What a
And
jerk.
I know I was so jealous, and I'm like, come on, man, this is just so mean. I want to do that, but
Yeah.
yeah, not so much. So you went to college in at UW-Madison. When did you know you wanted to be a nurse practitioner?
So like I said, my dad was in healthcare and I thought I really like helping people. I have seen a little bit secondhand because of him what caring for patients is like, and I could see myself doing that. And so I was pre-med for 2 years. And then I
Mm,
remember looking around to the other kids in my class in college and being like, I don't have anything in common with these people. And part of it was, I wanted to go out to the house parties.
sure.
And yes, I did my homework too, but they didn't do anything but school.
Mm,
And when the rest of us were out, they were at home studying in the weekend. And I didn't, I knew enough about myself even back then, to know that that wasn't me.
okay.
And I didn't really know what to do then. Of course, English and writing is, I would say, always been something that I love the most, but I didn't know what I could possibly do with an English degree, and I didn't want to be a teacher, so I didn't know what to do. And then I was helping out at my dad's office over winter break one year, and he introduced me to a patient of his who was a nurse practitioner.
Mm,
And I didn't know anybody who was a nurse, no one at all. So I had never heard of that. I had never considered being a nurse. But then that one encounter, and I was like, all right, let's do this. And you cannot get a more practical degree than nursing. There's a
right.
job that
Oh,
comes at the end of that.
oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think it is the thing that I like most other than writing. So like second, it is
Okay.
second in line. Of course, I've been doing it for 25 years. I've been doing my second favorite thing for 25 years.
Wow. I remember, I'm a little bit about 10 years older than you. And when I was in college, I don't think there were nurse practitioners. There were nurses, there was RNs and LPNs and CNAs, but there wasn't like nurse practitioners. And now, I know the competition is, fast and furious. That's blowing up. That and PAs.
Yeah, it's great. I would recommend it to anybody that you have the most job security you could ever ask for. And I like helping people. And even if you're someone who's not interested in working in a hospital or seeing people's bodies, there's all sorts of other things you can do.
When did you first start going into when did they introduce cadavers to you? I always like asking questions when some people are in the medical field. When was your first experience with a cadaver?
Have I ever even seen a cadaver? Gosh, if I did, it was as an undergrad.
Okay.
That wouldn't, I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen one.
Really?
We had to learn how to do like pelvic exams and genital exams.
Yeah.
They had live teachers. They would teach us how to do these things on themselves, which
No way.
I'll never forget that. That was an interesting
They
experience.
did not. Oh
Oh,
my
oh,
God.
yes.
That's going
A
the
little
extra
for the
mile for your
laughs.
class.
Yeah, but I don't think, we had to dissect cats in high school science, but
Yeah.
I have a terrible memory. Maybe we did cadavers and I just forgot, but I feel like I'd remember that if it
I would
happened.
think so. I had a friend when I was in high school. She was older than me and she was pre-med and they had a cadaver and she named
Yeah.
him. And she's
Oh
like, yeah,
boy.
he looks cold. So she put socks and a hat on him. And I'm like, please, what are you doing, Katie? And it's like,
There's
but
the gallows humor
oh,
is real. I like sometimes you forget that some of this stuff you probably shouldn't say
oh
out
yeah.
out and about. You probably should only say that to other healthcare providers because otherwise you're going to get really, really scandalized looks from people.
Yes, you will get roasted. But it's the same thing in the police world where, I mean,
Hmm.
almost nothing is off the table, but there are certain things that are sacred that we do not joke about, but a
Yeah,
lot, oh God, yeah, whew, oh boy. So,
I
yeah,
know.
you're a nurse practitioner. You are a nationally recognized HIV specialist. How much of your day job influences your writing, or does it?
Oh, it for sure does. So, um, I've been doing this particular job for about 10 years, but before that, all sorts of settings and um, Northwoods involves a pharmaceutical conspiracy.
Right.
And when I was in grad school and the beginning part of my career as a nurse practitioner was at the height of OxyContin. So
Mm,
if you've ever seen Dope Sick or read the book or anything like that, you know that these drug manufacturers, Purdue Pharma and everything, they would send out um, pharmaceutical representatives to like wine and dine.
oh yeah.
I remember also that there was a lecture that I had at UW given by a doctor talking about pain management and how you can't get addicted to OxyContin if you take it for pain. And
Really? Wow.
all of these things that at the time, you're looking at real research stuff, real research data, you're being shown slides with charts and bar graphs and all sorts of details, and it's being delivered by who you think is a respected colleague.
Yeah.
And, fast forward however many years, and it's just all revealed to be a lie. So
Wow.
I remember talking about Northwoods to my husband early on when I was writing it, and I talked about this concept of a pharmaceutical conspiracy theory where, you know, murder could be involved, um, or like a pharmaceutical company knowingly putting out drugs that they knew could harm people. And he was like, well, I think it seems a little far-fetched. And I'm like, no, I
No.
swear, I
Yeah.
swear. And probably 3 months later, the whole OxyContin Purdue Pharma Sackler family thing came out. And I was like, I told you.
Yeah. I
So
knew this.
healthcare has all the real life inspiration you could ever want for crime fiction.
Okay. Yeah, I can totally see that.
Yeah,
Now, if the opportunity presented itself, would you consider going full time as an author and hang up your shingle?
that's the goal. That is the goal.
Okay.
And that is what keeps me plugging along when I'm trying to do a day job and have a family with kids and write a book a year, if not more.
Right.
Um, so that is a resounding yes.
Okay. Now, when did you get bit by the writing bug?
Okay, so maybe third grade, a couple things
Oh,
happened at about the
wow.
same
Okay.
time. Yeah. So my great grandpa gave me his 1908 first edition copy of Anne of Green Gables. And if you've read that book, you know that Anne, the orphan girl, dreams of becoming an author. So that
Oh,
first got it in
cool.
my head. But at about that same time, I won an essay competition in third grade. And I don't remember what the essay was about, and my parents didn't save it for posterity.
Darn them.
But I remember, yeah, I remember that I won a bicycle light for all the nighttime biking that I did when I was 9. And my teacher told me that I was a good writer. And when
Mm,
you're that age, you just assume adults know what they're talking about.
true.
You also internalize things so much. So from then on, I consider myself a writer. And I would seek out everything I could on the craft of writing. And I was a big reader anyway, I always have been. But anything I could find, even, like over the course of the next 30 years. And then I got to be about 40 and I was like, well, I've not actually written anything yet. I probably should do something about that. So that's when I wrote Northwoods. So Northwoods is like the first thing I wrote.
Wow. Okay. That's
Mhm.
awesome.
But I had been practicing for 30 years.
Oh, okay. So it's not
In my
really
head.
okay.
Not practicing by actually writing other things, practicing in my head.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
And you saying that, your third grade teacher is telling you that, hey, you're a good writer and that imprinted on you. If there's teachers listening to this, there is a huge amount of power, I believe, in what you tell your kids. And I
Yep.
remember I was at a parent teacher conference. I was probably like in third or fourth grade. The teacher's like, Pat is stupid. He's dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if different times, and it turns out I'm dyslexic.
That's Yep.
I'm sure I had a heaping of AD and ADD and every other thing, as well. I couldn't
Mhm.
concentrate. I couldn't read for squat and I couldn't concentrate. It drove me bananas.
Yeah, those sorts of things stick with you. And I was fortunate to grow up with parents who said you can do anything you set your mind to. Because I know that's the opposite. I mean, there's a lot of parents, even well-meaning parents, who are like, I'm going to keep you humble. Don't get too big of a head.
Right.
You're no better than anybody else. And I just don't really see the point of that.
Yeah, but it's good to be realistic too. Like I remember, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a doctor. I was watching Emergency, Gage and DeSoto, the paramedics, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I'm like, I want to be Kelly Brackett. I want to be that doctor at the hospital.
Yeah.
Then I got the teacher telling me I'm a dumbass. And then, later on, it's like, oh shoot, math, science. I'm like, oh boy,
Well,
this is not going to happen.
I've worked with enough doctors. It's not all it's cracked up to be.
I will leave it at that. I
Well,
agree.
I feel bad for them usually because med school is basically hazing. I think it's gotten better, but it's hazing and residency, more hazing,
Oh
and
yeah.
hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And I don't know, those math and science classes weed out a whole lot of people who'd be very good at taking care of other folks.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. But hey, what are you gonna do? So
Become a nurse.
yeah, become a nurse practitioner. Yes.
Yep.
So how do you balance juggling being, you're a nurse practitioner, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're an author. Yeah, I mean, what is your secret? How do you keep all these things in check?
I don't think I do. I don't know. I don't know when I do it. Okay, okay. So I am on deadline for the third book in the Northwoods series. In
Mm,
fact, I'm probably like a little past deadline and still working on it. So every lunch break, I'm working on it. I really struggle with writing in the evening. Like after the
mm,
kids go to bed, forget it. I stare at the computer, nothing comes out.
okay.
Um, for a while there, I was getting up early at like 5. That doesn't work either. I mean, my brain doesn't wake up until 6 at least.
Right.
So my window of time is very small. And I did cut my hours back to 80%. So a few days a week, I go in a couple hours
Mm,
late. So it's no wonder that deadlines are tough because I have very little time, which is why I really want to go full time as an author because I don't know how long. It's like having a side hustle. You can only do it for so long.
right. I agree with you. I've been podcasting for 5 years. I've got my own, and I was on Writers Inc. for a year,
Mhm.
co-hosting with JD Barker. And I've talked to some super high speed authors that obviously are making their living off of it. And some of them say, and I kind of can see it where you have that freedom of say, you know what, I quit the day job and I'm full-time author, but you kind of get distracted. When you're in that zone, it's like, okay, I know I have an hour. There's no,
Mhm.
scrolling Facebook or Instagram or,
Right.
whatever. You are laser focused on the task at hand because this is all you've got. And I
Yes.
go through this too. I retired from my day job, 6 years ago, and I think I got more writing done when I was working like 60 hours a week and
I
being a
could see
dad and
that.
everything else.
I could absolutely see that. There's something to be said about that, like crunch time.
Yes.
Especially for folks who have ADHD, if
Yeah,
that is something that you
exactly.
actually have. The pressure of an external deadline can be very valuable. I'm thankful. I'm pretty good at motivating myself to stay on
Mm.
task. But sometimes you just don't have it in you. Sometimes you just stare at the screen. Your brain doesn't want to put anything out there. Your fingers practically don't move, and you start thinking, well, maybe I'm a terrible writer. So
Yeah.
that's when my husband is like, just close the computer, go to bed.
I've had other people tell me like when that happens, then they'll just put anything on there. Even if
Yeah,
it's garbly goop.
I think
Just
so too.
yeah, I
I think
I
that's good advice.
I think it's really good advice. And then before you know it, it's like, oh, you know what? I'll just write 100 words before I go to bed. Then before you know it, you're 500 words in.
Yep. And here's another thing that I've just really recently found. Okay, so say you know what you want, you know what's happening in the scene in your mind, but getting it onto the page just is really difficult. So what I have done is I just start typing the not fictional, interesting version of what I'm trying to say. Like I'll
Mm.
say, you know, Eli is frustrated because this, and he says this, but then this person gets mad. So he's thinking, and what that's something unplugs, like some sort of stopper comes out of the bottle when I
Mm.
do that sometimes. So I just started doing that recently, and it's been very helpful. It's almost like you're talking to the blank page as a
Oh,
person versus trying
yeah.
to write a story.
I like that. That's cool. Anything
Mhm.
we can do, any little tricks or whatever. So, are you a plotter or are you a pantser?
Northwoods was pantsed. That's
Oh,
the first one in the series.
yeah.
And the way that that book started is that I challenged myself. I was stuck in traffic one morning and I challenged myself to come up with an image, just whatever image popped into my mind. And it was a melancholy man floating in the lake on a warm summer night when music starts coming across the water. And for
Mm.
anyone who's read Northwoods, that's the opening scene.
Yes, it
And so
is.
I got home that night and I wrote that scene. And it was so vivid. I wrote that chapter and the second chapter, and the published version of those two chapters are almost the exact same as the first draft.
Mm.
So that came into my mind like that. And then the finale scene, I also knew and wrote. And then it took me 2 years to fill in all the pieces. And by all the pieces, I mean like a 40,000 word, barely there first draft.
Sure.
Um, so I didn't I don't know though that plotting is much easier because I plotted Wildwood, the second book in the series, because I had a deadline then.
Right.
And one thing that happened with Northwoods is that in the copy editing stage, which for folks that know is a very end of the process, the
Oh,
publisher is going to be sending this off to the printer after the
right.
copy editing is done. And the copy editor found a plot hole in
Ooh.
Northwoods. And so at the last minute, I had to add a chapter to fill that plot hole. And I thought, oh my gosh, I could have, written myself into a dead end and been in trouble. So I outlined Wildwood, and that had its own challenges because while I knew what the plot was, I didn't know what the characters were thinking and feeling.
Mm.
And that affected my ability to write the plot, first of all, but it also I'm someone who writes emotion and feeling and relationships. That's to me, that's as important as the plot. Like my books are just that way. They're very character driven.
Yes.
So that I was kind of freaking out late in the process because I'm like, I don't have any idea what Eli's even feeling. But I, got to it eventually. But
Sure.
I think that it's a combination of both. I'm a plantser.
Okay, gotcha. For me, I write fiction and nonfiction. When I write nonfiction, I don't plot at all. I have it in my head. I know exactly what I want to write, and I just do it. And for
Mhm.
fiction, I start out by the seat of my pants. And if I write myself into a corner, then I start plotting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I normally, if I do fiction, I know the beginning, the middle, and the end.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, like
that's
the tent poles, they say the tent poles,
yeah.
because that midpoint is just as important as the catalyst and the finale.
And
That was something that took me a while to learn, the importance of that midpoint
oh,
turning.
the saggy middle is no fun. I mean, it's that's where a lot of writers get stuck and you're kind of quagmired, in the middle.
Yeah. Well,
That
and I
oh,
have not found any good craft explanation of what the midpoint is until I kind of just figured it out myself. Because midpoint, what does that even mean?
yeah.
Um, but the way I think of it is the midpoint is the this changes everything
Mm,
moment.
yeah,
That has served me well to think of it that way.
I think for thrillers, the a good midpoint is the main character has to go against whatever obstacle and they fail.
Yeah.
But then it sparks a new direction, or you can introduce another character,
Yeah.
to help them out, or something sparks somewhere, and then you build up that momentum for like the big conclusion, the big end.
Yeah. So much goes into this. This is
I know.
writing. I have never written nonfiction, but writing fiction, man, it is hard. It is hard.
It is. It really is. It's harder than nonfiction. Like I said, I do both.
Yeah.
And writing fiction is, I don't want to say a lot tougher, but boy, it's tough. Yeah, it really
I
is.
thought, is there something wrong with me that there's a whole lot of this process that I hate?
No, that's normal.
Because some people are like, oh, if I didn't publish, I would still write just for fun. And I'm like, what part is fun exactly? Um, but then I've seen really big authors that I admire who say the same thing, who are like, oh yeah, it's 90% sucks, but the
Yep.
10% is so amazing that I do it anyway.
Well, yeah, like for me, I go into the police academy, and the worst part for me was running. I was 30 years old, and I'm running with these 21-year-olds.
Hmm.
And I could lift weights, I could do calisthenics I scored hundreds on my PT for that stuff, but the running I absolutely hated. And
Yep.
then there's some people that I know is like, "Oh, it's so much fun." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? What's fun
Uh,
about running? There's nothing fun." I mean, the end results is great. It's great
yeah.
cardiovascular, endurance training, and it teaches a lot when you're in a police academy. It's not just the workout, it's the no quit. I remember,
Yeah.
I was, one of the runs that we did, somebody did something stupid. So my whole class is running for an hour, up and down stairs, sprinting down halls. There's people puking. There's people like turning blue. My instructor was yelling at me. He's like, "O'Donnell, you are anaerobic. You are no longer aerobic. You are no longer breathing." And I was literally turning blue. I was dying.
Ugh.
But it puts it in your head, there is no quit. He
Yeah.
said if you're a cop and you're doing battle with somebody or you're in whatever situation, there's no timeout. There's no like
No.
yellow card saying, "Okay, I gotta catch my breath here." Doesn't
Yeah.
work like
Like
that.
you absolutely have to do it.
Yes.
That's my metaphor that I can relate with there, or the thing I can compare it to because I've never been in law enforcement is being a new parent, like with a newborn. You are tired. You don't
Yes.
have any more to give, but you got to
Oh
because
yeah.
baby's crying and you just somehow reach down and find it.
Yeah, that's a great analogy because I remember my first son, I didn't have any experience with babies. Zero.
Mhm.
I didn't have little brothers or sisters. I didn't have little cousins. I never babysat. I I only had held an infant one time before my son was born. And I'm
Uh-huh.
31 years old.
Hmm.
And my wife was a month early and she had some complications. So she was all drugged out in bed. And here we have this newborn. And
Hmm.
we were home from the hospital at 2 days. Not even. And it's like the
Yeah.
first night I slept on the floor of the
Yes.
nursery because I was petrified. We didn't have a baby monitor back then.
Uh-huh.
And so I slept on the floor and I woke up like every 15, 20 minutes to make sure he was breathing. I was
Uh-huh.
scared to death. And he didn't care that I didn't sleep.
No.
Like he was off in his own little baby world doing baby stuff. And it's like, and like you said, there is no excuses. My poor wife,
You,
she couldn't move. So
yep.
I'm like, all right, it's all on me. It's on my shoulders.
You just got to do it.
Yep. That's crazy stuff. Oh my. So
Uh-huh.
your path towards the best-selling book Northwoods, yeah, how you went traditional publishing, correct?
Yeah.
Now, how many you hear all these stories about, authors with their hundreds of rejection letters, it's, they try to get an agent,
Right.
they're doing the query letters. How did that look for you? How did it happen?
Well, okay, so remember how I said a little while ago that I'm a school girl?
Okay.
I do my homework ahead of time, right? So I wasn't going to try to write and publish a book that I knew no one wanted to buy. Like I wasn't going to just pick some random self-indulgent thing to write. And yes, I got the idea for Northwoods just on a whim, but I knew that crime fiction and small town crime fiction is a popular
Oh,
genre.
it is.
It's worth my time to write a book in that genre. Um, and commercially viable. But I think so my path to getting my publishing deal was a lot smoother than what you hear for horror stories.
Right.
But I think that that comes down to doing my homework, but also polishing the daylights out of that manuscript before I started sending it out to query agents. So, yes, you hear horror stories about querying 100 agents and getting all these rejections and or being on submission with publishers for years and years with no bites. Um, let's see, January of 2022, I had finished writing the book. I had sent it to all my beta readers. Beta readers are really good. So those are folks that read it and give you feedback from a reader's perspective. They're
Right.
not editing, they're just giving you, yeah.
Correct.
So I polished it up after the beta readers, and then January 2022, I started querying and I made myself a spreadsheet and I found the contact info for all of the agents who were accepting new people who even sort of were
How did
accepting.
you find that information?
Um, Query Tracker was
Okay.
the best resource, but I didn't know about that right away. So I think there was some Writer's Digest book that they put out with agents. There's
Mm,
an annual thing with agents. I'm not sure how helpful I found that, to be honest.
okay.
Querytracker.net is a resource that I would recommend to anyone who's considering querying agents for traditional publishing. Um, so I made a spreadsheet and I told myself and I polished my query letter. And if anyone is curious about a query letter and what that means, and I mean, Pat, you know this, but just for the sake of anyone who's curious, um, your query letter is the letter you send. It's in an email these days saying, "Hey, here's this book I wrote. Here's what it's about." Um, and you want to make it exciting. You want it to be a hook. You want the person going through all of the million emails
Right.
to be like, wait a minute, this sounds interesting. I might look at these 10 pages that are attached. So my query letter, the publisher basically just jacked it and used it as the book copy. So
Oh,
my
wow.
query letter is the flap of Northwoods.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
How
so if anyone wants to see it, you got to buy the copy of Northwoods.
There we go. Now, how many rejections did you get, or did you just hit a home run right away?
Okay, so I started querying, I don't know, 5 to 10 a week. So by the end of January, I had probably sent out 30-ish
Yeah.
queries. And I got a couple of requests for the full manuscript, I think 3 or 4, which is good. Like within the first month or two, that's very good. So I was
Yeah.
pleased with that. And then in February, one of the people who requested offered. So it went very fast.
So
in comparison. And I think,
Yeah.
again, that is due to paying attention to the things that make books attractive to agents and editors.
So the Bigfoot romance from Amy Pease is not coming anytime soon.
No, because you know what? Annalise Ryan has the Bigfoot all wrapped up. She has her monster series, Wisconsin Mystery.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
yep,
really?
Annalise Ryan.
Oh,
It
yeah.
starts with the death in Door County, so check that out.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
So obviously you get an agent. For those who don't know, you get an agent and the agent shops it around to publishers. So what did that look like?
She helped me polish it a little bit more. And then she sent it out to publishers. I think the process looks pretty similar, unless an agent has a very close relationship with an editor and they can call the editor up and be like, hey, I got something for you.
Ah, okay.
I think that they almost kind of do a process that's similar to querying, where they send it out to a bunch of acquiring editors at various imprints. So she did that, and it was only like a couple weeks before I got the deal. So
Wow.
I think it was much, much smoother than I had expected, which was, I'm sure, partly due to circumstances and luck, but also, you have control over the quality of your writing. You have control over doing your homework about how to query, about how to write a query letter. There's so many people I'll see in like writing Facebook groups who are just like, how do I get an agent? And I'm like, did you Google that yet?
Yeah.
There's a wealth of information about how to do that. Start there.
Right. Wow. That's now, do you remember where you were and or how you celebrated when you found out? It's like, hey,
Oh
this
yeah,
is
I was
gonna
at
happen.
work. I was at work,
Okay.
and I remember looking at the email where my agent offered, because the hardest part is getting the agent, I think.
Right, right.
Like, getting the book deal is not so difficult. I don't, I, that's my experience anyway. Um, but when I got that offer from the agent, I remember being like, oh my God, guys. And my friends, sitting there at work where they knew that I was trying to do this. And so I was like, ah. And I'm sure I didn't do anything to actually celebrate.
Oh, you
I
need
got a
to.
new computer bag when I got my publishing deal. That I remember.
Oh my, you
Mhm.
crack me up. Oh my. So when when you were writing this book, the first one, Northwoods, did you have a feeling, man, this is gonna be a hit?
Um, I was excited about it. And the more I wrote, the more excited about I was. And I took that as a good sign. That was what pushed me to keep writing it, because I had never written anything. I had never written a first draft. I didn't even know whether I could do it until I did it.
Yeah.
Um, and then, and of course, it's really bad. First drafts are terrible. It
Well,
was it was
they're
like the
pancakes.
dumbest thing ever.
Come on, it's the first
Um,
pancake, It's like,
yeah, it was terrible. In fact, if people are ever asking me for writing advice for new writers, I say, um, you're going to write something on the page, you're going to read it back, you're going to say to yourself, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. But then you got to keep on writing. So that's
yes.
that's the secret.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
So that does very well. Wildwood did very good. It's still an Amazon editor's choice book. And I was just like, wow, that's really cool. Now it's time to write the second book.
Yeah, Wildwood. Northwoods is
Wildwood.
first, then Wildwood. Yep.
Right. Now, did you feel pressure? It's like, oh boy, I got to deliver the same hit now. The bar is up here.
Yeah.
You hear this a lot from bands. It's like their
Okay.
first big hit, and
Yeah.
then their producer is saying, you got 6 months to do the same thing. And they're like,
Yeah.
this, it took me all of my life to get to this point. It took me
Yep.
all of my life to do this. Now you want me to replicate this in 6 months.
Exactly. I did not enjoy writing Wildwood. I did not enjoy it at all. I don't even know if there were any moments where I liked it. Whereas Northwoods, there were.
Yeah.
Wildwood, even when I, was turning it into my editor and we were calling it done, I was like, you would tell me if this sucked, right? You would tell me if this is bad, because I don't know. I don't know about this book.
Right.
And she was like, I promise I would tell you this is a good book. And what made me be like, all right, fine, is also because all of my beta readers liked it better than Northwoods. And
Okay.
I had given my beta readers a terrible version of it. It was like not fully written, it was messy, it was crappy, and they all liked it better than Northwoods. So I'm like, all right, fine.
Wow.
And
So,
everyone who's read it still says they like it better than Northwoods.
okay.
So I have been proven wrong, I guess.
Well, I cannot say it because I got Northwoods and I listened to it on audio. I love audiobooks.
Okay.
So, yeah, I finished that. Very good. And
Yeah.
Wildwood is next. I wanted to do it in order. So that's the
Yep.
next one. Now, I did notice.
Well, and this is a fun fact. The narrator for Northwoods and Wildwood is from Green Bay.
Oh, no
Our
kidding.
our parents were in the same dining club before we were born.
Oh my God, is that funny?
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Now, I was looking at your Amazon page and I noticed you're in KU, you're Amazon exclusive for the
Am
Kindle.
I?
You are.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Okay, I was just wondering what the strategy was behind that, but I guess
I have no idea. The publisher does it all.
okay,
But
okay.
you know what? I that makes sense though because it's the first in a series and they did a lot more publicity and marketing for Northwoods and partly because it was a debut, but
Yeah,
yeah, so much more than Wildwood, but it kind of makes sense. Like why blow your marketing and publicity budget on the second book in a series?
right.
Um, so, we had a month of it being 2.99
Mm,
on Kindle, and now, as you're saying, it's on KU.
yeah.
I didn't know that, but that seems like a good idea.
Yeah, all of my books are in KU and
Hmm.
you know, there's pros and cons obviously, it's nice to
Right.
get those page reads. And I do think, and I have zero evidence to back this, but I do think Amazon gives it a little more love as far as discoverability if you are
I think
KU.
you're right. I've heard that from a lot of I follow the self-publishing industry very closely. I have considered self-publishing other things,
That was
not
going
my
to be one of my
career.
questions.
Yeah, I saw that one on the list. Yeah, so I know that there's the back and forth about KU, and there's all sorts of little sneaky things. There's
Oh
all
yeah.
sorts of little sneaky things.
Yeah, I think that the big publishers are learning a lot from indie publishing right now.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
as they should.
yes, they should because they dig their heels in and it's like, well, this is the way we've always done it. That's not always the best way to do it, but whatever. So interesting.
Right.
My next question was, you ever consider self-publishing?
Yes. So way back when I was writing Northwoods, I thought, well, maybe I'll self-publish. But then I thought, well, why don't I at least give the traditional publishing thing a try?
Yeah.
In other words, querying agents. Um, and I'm glad I did. Obviously, that worked out well. I I have no experience in business or marketing or anything like that. So, and a lot of successful self-publishers do, and
Oh yeah.
that comes in tremendous handy when you're
Yes.
marketing yourself. And I didn't have any of that background to help me along. So that was another reason that I erred on the side of going to traditional.
Mm.
Um, I wrote and I'm still writing a romance because when I read, my favorite genre to read is historical romance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and there is a romance subplot in the Northwoods series, as you like maybe could
R
guess
right.
after reading
Yep.
Northwoods.
Yep.
Um, so I wrote a gothic time travel Dracula romance.
Okay.
And I had talked to my agent at the time, because I have a different agent now. I had talked to that agent and was like, "Hey, I've got this book. What do you think?" And she's like, "No, I don't. I'll pass." So I thought, okay, well, I guess I'll self-publish it. But then, fast forward 6 months, and she changed her mind about it.
Mm.
So it's not ready to be submitted yet,
Yeah.
but that'll go traditional too now.
Interesting. I have a self-published hero of mine. Her name is Cecilia Mecca. She started writing historical fiction. It was Scottish and English, medieval romance.
Yep.
And I met her at 20 books to 50K, her and her husband. And that was like in 2017. She was on track to being a professor at Penn State,
Uh-huh.
and she dropped all of that to write romance. And
I
she's
need to look
making
up her books.
and
That's
she's
exactly the kind of stuff I like.
and she's making a lot more money doing that.
Okay, well, you're gonna have to let me know her name again because there's not that much out there. Like I
Yep.
need more fuel. I need more
Okay,
fuel.
Cecilia Mecca.
How do you spell that? Mecca?
Yeah, Mecca, and she's got like she's doing that, but she's also doing the paranormal. She's doing romantasy, and she's doing urban romance.
Does she live in Madison?
No, she lives in
Oh.
Pennsylvania.
Oh, I was gonna say something's popping up there. Okay.
Yeah,
I just
but
for a
she
second there,
is
I was
one
like, oh
of
my gosh.
she is. If you want to, there's a podcast called The Self-Publishing Formula with James
Mhm.
Blatch, and she's the co-host. She's his new
Oh.
co-host.
Well, now I know exactly where I'm gonna look for my latest book. I'm a very like they say DNF, a book, do not finish. I finish maybe 10% of the books I start reading.
Okay.
I'm ruthless.
See, I can't do that. I
Um,
have to finish it. If I
I
start
know a
it,
lot of people
I
do.
finish it. I have to.
I have moved past that need.
Okay.
To like a kind of a ridiculous extent, to be honest. Like I will put down a book with just a couple chapters left.
Oh wow. Oh no, I no
I-
way. I could not do that.
And it isn't even a book that I dislike. It's just if I put it down and I find that I'm not wanting to reach for it,
Yeah.
that
Interesting. Interesting. So,
ruthless.
okay, you write crime fiction. And I don't think you were a cop.
Oh no.
Where do you get your cop facts from? How do you do your research for it?
Well, the Cops and Writers Facebook group,
Yay.
primarily. Um, for anyone who knows anything about actual law enforcement, they will probably see that Northwoods and Wildwood are pretty light on the procedural stuff
There
because
are
I don't know
some
anything
things
about
there.
it.
Yeah, some.
It's a little light on that. I tried to, okay, so it's set in this fictional tiny resort town in northern Wisconsin called Shaky Lake. And the department is tremendously understaffed. Like there's no way they can actually meet all of the needs of the town. So they're always cutting corners and scrapping and making do and having to bend the rules. Well, that's for a reason because I don't know what the rules are. I mean,
Yeah.
I can research stuff when I need to know. Like for example, in Northwoods, there's a missing girl and the FBI gets involved. And I was like, is that realistic? And I go for like bare minimum plausibility. If
Okay.
if something could even possibly be true, good enough for me.
All right. All right. Yeah, I was wondering what that looked like, but that is one workaround. I mean, that definitely is.
Well, I know
And
Nick Petrie talks about how in his Peter Ash series, how Peter's always losing his phone so that he
yeah.
can't just like make a call and figure out the answer to something.
Well, and we both know Nick. Nick is a great guy. He's a good writer
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
he's great.
Absolutely. Another local Wisconsin guy. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we were talking a little bit earlier about this. A strong point, I think, of your writing is describing people and surroundings. Where
Mhm.
does that come from? And where where's like the border where, okay, that's too much? Does
Oh, that is the far more interesting question. Yeah, I love lots of description. So my two favorite books tied for first place, Anne of Green Gables and The Grapes of Wrath. And if you've ever read Steinbeck, you know he describes every facial expression,
Yep.
everything is described, and I love it. And Anne of Green Gables is like that too. That is not for everybody.
Right. Right.
And you have to kind of at the end of the day when you're writing it, you got to do what you like. Um, Although you do want to keep in mind, you don't want to be self-indulgent about it to the point where you're turning
Right.
off everybody. But I'm a describer. I like that when I read, so I include it in my books. I was reading an excerpt that someone had put up from Northwoods, and it was a descriptive passage. And reading it again, years later, I'm like, I think that could have been about 20% shorter. Um, so you learn too. You learn,
Right.
not that I read my reviews, but of course I read my
Oh,
reviews sometimes
everybody does.
anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, and so some people are like, "Oh my God, the description just went on and on. I didn't need to know about the trees and the this and the that." And then some people are like, "I love the description."
Yeah,
So,
I think we listen as authors, we listen a little too much to editors and other authors and kind of discount what the reader wants. The reader is the ultimate judge of everything. Anybody that's
yeah.
willing to put down 5, 10 bucks for your book and
Yeah.
then go that extra mile to even write a review,
Or
you
if
know,
if it's a traditionally published hardcover, that's 30 bucks.
yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I've been fortunate that my editor at Atria at Emily Bestler Books has never tried to assert her style on me ever. She's amazing, and I hear a lot of horror stories about that
Yes.
um, from other Wisconsin authors who are good friends of mine. So I have never dealt with that, but I don't know. I feel like I've always thought this is about me and the reader. This isn't about anybody else.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I think so too. And again, as authors, we do get that in our heads. I sent out, my ARC team, the last couple of books, and some of them, a lot of them actually are authors, and they'll start picking it apart with authorly stuff. Then I'll
Oh,
have like just regular readers read it, and they're like, "Oh, I love this." And they don't
yep.
say anything about, it's like, oh, you're this, that, and the other thing. And some of it I had to like look up. I'm like, what are they talking about? They're
Yeah.
like way over my head. They have MFAs and stuff. And I'm like, and then I've got like just regular people. It's like, when's the next book coming out? I love that. You
Yeah, I find that fascinating because I'll talk to my friends at work and they're all, loving some of these really popular, but like Fourth Wing or something. And I read Fourth Wing and it's actually pretty good. I don't like fantasy, so usually I don't like those, but that one I liked pretty well. But Fourth Wing, of course, blockbuster romantasy book. Uh, I wanted to know, like, what is it that you loved so much about this book? And it's never the writing style.
Nope,
And
it
so
sure
what I've
isn't.
come to understand is the line level prose really doesn't matter to most readers. It matters a lot to me. Like if it's bad line level prose, I'm like, no, I can't enjoy this book if I'm sitting there being bothered by like weird word choices or generic language or whatever. But this is another thing that I just recently came across, well, sort of recently, that might be helpful to any writers. Um, there's a editor, no, he's a literary agent, been in the business forever, Donald J. Moss, Maass. He's written a bunch of books and he has a blog about the craft of writing, and it's all about the emotional experience for the reader. And his point is you need to have these things, and even if your line level prose is not great, they're still going to give the reader that emotional experience, and that's what makes a breakout novel.
I agree 1,000,000%
Mhm.
because think about it. Whatever movie you watch or like your favorite song, you you don't you're not like reading this book or watching this movie and it's like, well, this technical thing or that. You may not remember the entire thing or like say a song, but you'll remember the feeling it gives you when
Yep.
you walk away from what your one of your favorite songs or one of your favorite books or movies or whatever, you're like, oh wow, that really, I just got done watching Rocky 3 last night. It's like
Yeah.
I want to hit the gym, man. It's like, yeah, I work out every day, and it's like now, yeah, hello, Mr. Heavy Bag. It's like I got to be Rocky.
Uh-huh.
I don't understand or remember all the little nuances that Sylvester Stallone tried to put in the script and blah blah blah. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you walked away?
Yeah. I've been trying to um that's been my approach for the third book in the series, which I'm still finishing. although it comes out in April, which for traditional publishing is a very tight window.
Okay.
And it's the third book is called The Silence Keepers. And I had spent a lot of time in the past year or so really trying to research to read everything I could by Donald J. Moss and rethink some of the decisions I make. And my work is sort of, like I said, character based, so
Hmm.
heavy on the emotion to begin with. But one thing that I think he would say is the absolute fundamental is that you want your protagonist to be like a hero. You want them to have heroic qualities above and beyond what any of us, any real life person would have. Like they need to be larger than life, even though maybe they're an anti-hero. Maybe their whole point is that they're just an average Joe.
Oh yeah.
Um,
You have to give them some
it's
flaws. You got to They can't, a superhero is fantastic, but a superhero that never stubs their toe and never, seeks has any kind of difficulty or challenge is boring. You
right,
want them to overcome something. You want them to,
right.
be in, my writer friends, we'll talk and it's like, we'll bounce stuff off of each other. And it's like, what do you think? I said, you need more, stress. You need more drama, like give him something horrible, give him a disease, give him, put him in a situation that's no win, and just when you think there's enough, give him more, it's like, just
Yeah.
really lay it on thick.
Well, and the idea that there should be conflict and tension
Yes.
in every line. And when you think of it that way, it's because sometimes you just want to convey some information about the case or whatever in the story and then move on. But you can't really do that if you want it to be at a higher level for the reader. So the idea of tension on in every line of the book, that's been really helpful for me to keep in mind.
Right. And like Hollywood, I don't know why, but they missed the mark where it's like a lot of these stories, yeah, there's lots of tension, there's lots of drama, but there's no comedy. Like say police fiction. It's we were talking before, about dark humor, healthcare, first responders, et cetera. And where they lose it is there's no humor at all. Everyone's so
Yep.
stoic and it's like, it's the worst day ever. Oh my gosh. And it's like after a while, as a watcher or a reader, you get tired. Man, give me a
Yeah.
lifeline here.
You
It's
need you need a little bit of a palate cleanser every now
yes,
and then.
absolutely. So,
Mhm.
speaking of Hollywood, if or when your books make it to the small or big screen, what actor or actress do you want being the leading persons?
Okay, I made a whole mood board for Northwoods. I didn't have
Okay,
time to do it. I didn't have time to do it for Wildwood or the Silence Keepers, but for Northwoods, I made a whole mood board with
okay.
little inspiration photos for every character, including Eli's dog.
Oh,
Um,
sweet.
his dog is like everyone makes fun of him that he got like someone pawned off a wolf puppy on him
Uh,
because this big, wolf-looking dog. And so I used a Game of Thrones dire wolf for
nice.
Bella the dog. Um, so Eli gets teased a lot for being really good looking. Like Alyssa, the FBI agent, says like she teases him about looking like a Disney prince. And he does not have an ego about it, but it's sort of embarrassing to him.
You're right.
But I thought I was looking at I had sort of in my mind, and he's in his late 30s in the book, and I found a headshot of Chris Evans, who is Captain America, but it
Okay.
was a headshot where he was looking really sad. So and Eli's going through a lot of difficult things in
Right.
North. So sad Chris Evans.
Okay.
That's who plays him.
Love it. Love it. And
Yep.
I was also going to ask when you're writing a book, do these things pop into your head? But obviously they do.
Oh yeah. I have stuff going on in my head at all times.
Okay. Well, let's start landing the plane here. I'm
Okay.
respectful of your time. What's next?
Well, right now I'm sweating my deadline for the Silence Keepers. So once that is done, hopefully in the coming, you know, several weeks to a couple months, um, I'm getting back to working on the Gothic time travel Dracula romance,
Sweet.
because my agent would like to start getting that out, hopefully in the fall to publishers.
All
I
right.
don't know if I'm allowed to say any of this. I think I am. I don't know.
Oh, well, I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen, right?
I don't know why I couldn't say any of that kind of stuff, but
Right.
yeah, so that's what's going on. Um, and then of course in the summer there's just like so much stuff going on that fitting that in is about all I can do.
Sure. So, where can people go to find out more about you and your work?
My website is amypeasewrites.com, and my books are available anywhere books are sold. Um, there's links from my website to purchase them. I think it brings you to the Simon and Schuster page, so you can
Hmm,
just click any retailer that you want.
cool.
And it's available in uh, well, KU, but also there's hardcover, paperback, and audio. The paperback of Wildwood is not out yet. That'll come out in December.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So the books are Northwoods and Wildwood, and the next book is coming up soon-ish.
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
Well, Amy, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It was good chatting with you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining me and my special guest, best-selling and award-winning author Amy Pease, for this bonus episode of the Cops and Writers podcast. Thank you, Amy, for letting us into the up north world of Northwoods and Wildwood. I can't wait to see what's next for you in your author journey. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Cops and Writers podcast. If you haven't done so yet, can you take a minute and rate and review the show on Spotify or Apple Podcasts? If you have already, thank you. As always, thank you for all of your support, and of course, let's be careful out there.